I was reborn. Back to the exact moment my fiancée, Victoria Lancaster, threw the engagement dissolution papers in my face. In my last life, I transformed myself for her, going from a spoiled rich kid to a hard-working executive, desperate to prove I was worthy. In the end, I was just a stepping stone for her and the story's real hero, a footnote in their romance before I died a pathetic death on some forgotten street. This time, I'm tired. All I want is to be a useless bum, coasting through life and enjoying a quiet retirement at 25. So why is it that the less I do, the weirder everyone starts looking at me? Sign it. Then we're done. Her voice was glacial, like ice shards in the dead of winter, and it hurt to hear. I looked up at the face that was at once so familiar and yet so distant. Victoria Lancaster, my fiancée, the notoriously cold CEO, the ice queen of New York City's business world, and in the cheap thriller I once read, a supporting female character. And I, Aiden Hayes, was her fiancé in name only. A piece of cannon fodder. A good-for-nothing playboy whose only purpose was to highlight her elegance and the hero's brilliance. In my last life, it was right here that I begged her like a dog not to end the engagement. My reward was a look of deepening disgust and a single sentence. You make me sick. After that, I went into a frenzy, trying to prove myself, trying to catch up to her, only to be crushed under the hero's heel again and again. I became a joke, and my death went unnoticed. Living it again, seeing her push the papers toward me, I almost laughed out loud. I was free. Truly. I picked up the pen and, without even glancing at the contents, scrawled my name with a flourish. Done. I pushed the agreement back toward her, leaned back into the plush sofa, and let out a long, deep sigh. The entire world felt peaceful. The barrage of insults and sarcastic remarks Victoria had prepared died in her throat. Her perfect eyebrows knitted together, her eyes filled with suspicion and confusion. Did you even read it? What's there to read? I yawned, feeling a wave of relief wash over me. It's just an agreement to call off the wedding. From now on, you go your way, I go mine. You're a professional, Ms. Lancaster. I trust you got the details right. Victoria's expression turned even colder. She probably expected me to cry and plead like last time, giving her another chance to humiliate me from her lofty perch. Too bad for her. I wasn't that idiot anymore. Aiden, what kind of game are you playing now? She stared at me, her gaze sharp. Is this some kind of reverse psychology? I couldn't be bothered to answer. My stomach rumbled. I was getting hungry. I stood up and stretched, my joints popping satisfyingly. Ms. Lancaster, if there's nothing else, I'm going to head out. I'm starving. Time for lunch. With that, I walked straight toward the door. Victoria was frozen in place, her eyes, a complex storm of emotions, fixed on my back. She couldn't comprehend it. How could the man who had chased her relentlessly, who had treated her like the center of his universe, suddenly become so decisive? So, eager to leave? I could feel her searing gaze on me, but I didn't look back. Goodbye, my Ice Queen CEO fiancé. Hello, Michelin-starred restaurants, small batch whiskey, and the sweet, sweet life of doing absolutely nothing. The world is so beautiful, and I was so miserable. No more. It's time to enjoy my life. After ending the engagement, even the city air felt fresher. The first thing I did was bundle up all the shares and management rights to the various messy companies under my name and toss them to my most capable right-hand man, Leo Vance. Over the phone, Leo sounded like he was on the verge of tears. Boss, all these assets, are you really not going to manage any of them? Several of these projects are at a critical stage. I was lounging by the rooftop pool of my penthouse, soaking up the sun with a glass of freshly squeezed orange juice in hand. Critical. I rolled over lazily. Is anything more critical than me getting a tan? Leo, from now on, don't bother me with these little things. You have one job. Make sure I have enough money in my account every month to eat, drink, and play. That's it. But boss. Beep, beep, beep. I hung up. The world was quiet again. In my last life, I was run into the ground by those critical projects. This time, whoever wants to do them can have at it. Enjoying life is the only thing that matters. I made a reservation at the most exclusive restaurant in New York, the Garden. The head chef was rumored to be descended from a line of presidential chefs, and they only served 3 tables a night. When I arrived, another guest was already seated in the courtyard. A young woman. She wore a simple white dress and sat under a large dogwood tree, holding a book. Sunlight dappled through the leaves, casting shifting patterns of light on her. Serene, beautiful, like a painting. I stopped in my tracks, my body having a reaction it shouldn't. What can I say? I was reborn into a body that was young and full of vigor. As if sensing my gaze, the woman looked up. Our eyes met. Hers were incredibly bright, like they held starlight. Seeing me, she was startled for a moment, then a warm smile spread across her face. It was a smile that could melt the Siberian permafrost. "Hello," she said softly. I walked over and sat on the stone bench opposite her. "Hi, I'm Aiden Hayes. Chloe Evans." She closed her book, her smile still lingering. "Are you waiting for table 2? "Yeah, I heard the food here is incredible," I said honestly. "It is, especially their house-infused gin and the cioppino. They're to die for." Chloe's eyes lit up, and she looked like an adorable cat that had just spotted a treat. We started chatting. I found her fascinating. Despite her obviously affluent background, you could tell from her poise and conversation, she had no airs about her. She was like the girl next door, sweet and genuine. Her knowledge of food and wine was even deeper than mine, and I considered myself a seasoned enthusiast. I found myself liking her more and more. We had a wonderful meal, the conversation flowing easily. As we were leaving, Chloe's dog, a Samoyed named Biscuit, came running out of nowhere and affectionately rubbed against my leg. At the same time, my ragdoll cat, Machi, who I'd left in the car, poked his head out the window, looking at Biscuit with uncharacteristic curiosity. Chloe covered her mouth, stifling a laugh. It looks like they really like each other. I looked at her radiant smile, and my mood lifted. Maybe a life of doing nothing could be even better with an angel like this as a friend. After saying goodbye to Chloe, I returned to my base of operations, the luxury penthouse in the heart of the city. I had just settled into the bathtub when Leo's frantic, nonstop calls started again. I answered, annoyed. "Boss, it's a disaster." Leo's voice sounded like the sky was falling. The rival company that was competing with us for the Stardust project just launched a media assault. They're spreading rumors that our capital chain is broken. Our stock is already starting to fall. "Oh," I said, closing my eyes and enjoying the warm water. "Oh, that's it, boss. Just oh." Leo was losing his mind. "If we don't issue a clarification, we'll hit the trading limit down tomorrow at opening. This was the project you valued the most." I cleaned out my ear. That land. Weren't we already guaranteed to win it? The only reason he's lashing out is because he's desperate. I said slowly, and desperate people make mistakes. Let him bite. The harder he bites, the faster he'll die. There was silence on the other end of the line. After a full 30 seconds, Leo's voice returned, trembling with a mixture of sudden understanding and pure adoration. "I get it, boss. I get it. You want to use this as an opportunity. A feint. You're letting them play all their cards so we can wipe them out in one fell swoop. Not only will we get the property, but we'll short their stock at the same time and make sure they never recover. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant." I said nothing. That wasn't it. I really just couldn't be bothered. "Good. As long as you understand." I was too lazy to explain. "Get it done. And stop calling me." "Yes, boss. Mission accepted. You just rest well and wait for the good news." After the call, Leo, now coursing with adrenaline, immediately called an all-hands meeting with the core team to convey the boss's supreme directive. A group of top-tier business elites gathered around my simple, offhand remark. Let him bite. The harder he bites, the faster he'll die, and began a frenzied brainstorming session. The boss's meaning is clear. Appear weak to the enemy, lure them in deep. Exactly. On the surface, our stock is falling and we're in chaos. But in reality, we've laid an inescapable trap. He's pulling the rug out from under them. This move is genius. We're not just defending, we're going on the counterattack. Move. PR team, stand down. Finance, get the capital ready. Legal, start gathering evidence. The moment they're at their most triumphant, we deliver the killing blow. The entire team was instantly galvanized, each person pumped with adrenaline, vowing to perfectly execute the boss's master plan. And I, the so-called mastermind, had simply fallen asleep in the bathtub. The world hustles and bustles for a few measly dollars, but I just happened to not want them. The next day, I woke up whenever I felt like it. I pulled open the curtains to a perfectly sunny day. As I made breakfast, I turned on the financial news. The headline was blaring. A business miracle. Ether Holdings' stunning reversal bankrupts rival, wiping out $10 billion in a single day. The news anchor described the previous day's thrilling market battle with a dramatic voice. He explained how Ether Holdings was maliciously shorted, only to unleash a massive flood of capital in the last 10 minutes of trading, perfectly timed with the release of a bombshell report on their rivals' tax evasion and corporate bribery scandals. They didn't just beat their opponent, they sent them straight to hell. The stock price of Ether Holdings hadn't just recovered. It had skyrocketed, hitting an all-time high. And that arrogant rival company? It had already declared bankruptcy. I silently flipped my eggs, completely unfazed. Huh, Leo and his team are pretty efficient. Just then, another news story caught my eye. Sources say Lancaster Corp was also affected by the fallout, with its stock price falling significantly. CEO Victoria Lancaster reportedly worked through the night to stabilize the situation. I raise an eyebrow. Victoria? Right? In my last life, Lancaster Corp was also a competitor for the Stardust Project. The story's hero had slapped her down at every turn, leaving her completely overwhelmed. This time, the hero hadn't even shown up yet, and the rival was taken out by my team ahead of schedule. She just got caught in the crossfire. My phone rang. It was Victoria's number. I casually put it on speaker and continued buttering my toast. Aiden, was it you? Her voice was laced with exhaustion, but it was the disbelief that stood out. What? I asked, my mouth full of toast. The takedown of Horizon Corp. Victoria's tone grew urgent. Don't play dumb. A move this big. I can't think of anyone else who could pull it off. I took a sip of milk and answered slowly, Ms. Lancaster, don't you think you're giving me a little too much credit? I'm just a bum who lives to eat and sleep. I don't have that kind of power. Right now, I'm trying to figure out what to have for lunch. I don't have time for your big shot corporate drama. You. Victoria was so stunned she was speechless. It made sense. In her eyes, I was useless. How could a useless person annihilate a billion-dollar corporation overnight? It didn't fit her logic. Aiden, I don't know what you're up to, she said, taking a deep breath and reassuming her Ice Queen persona, but our engagement is over. I hope you'll stop trying to get my attention this way. It's childish. I actually laughed. Get her attention? Was this woman for real? Ms. Lancaster, I think you're mistaken. I wiped my mouth, my voice flat. First, it was my team that took down Horizon, not me. I just told them to stop bothering me. Second, I lost interest in you a long time ago. So please, stop calling me. You're interrupting my quiet life. With that, I hung up. Childish? To someone who's already died once and just wants to chill, your corporate war games are the most childish thing in the world. The afternoon sun was perfect. I took my ragdoll cat, Machi, to a new high-end pet spa. I didn't expect to run into Chloe again. She was kneeling on the floor, brushing her Samoyed biscuit, a gentle smile on her face. Hey, fancy seeing you here, I said, walking over. Aiden. Chloe's eyes lit up when she saw me. You brought Machi to play? The words were barely out of her mouth when Machi meowed, wriggled out of my arms, and landed gracefully on the floor. He walked with elegant steps right up to Biscuit. Biscuit's tongue was hanging out, his big tail wagging like a metronome. He stretched his head forward and nuzzled against Machi. And Machi, incredibly, didn't flinch. He even stuck out his little pink tongue and licked Biscuit on the nose. Chloe and I just stared, dumbfounded. Oh my God, Chloe whispered, covering her mouth. Machi is usually so aloof, and Biscuit is normally terrified of cats. Was it love at first sight? I looked at the impossible harmony between cat and dog, and had to agree. Maybe it's fate. The rest of the afternoon turned into a date for our pets. Biscuit and Machi were inseparable, one moment chasing each other, the next drinking from the same water bowl, head to head. It was sickeningly sweet. Chloe and I, the owners, felt like third wheels. We sat in the lounge area, sipping coffee and watching the two of them. Aiden, what do you like to do for fun? Chloe asked curiously. Me? I thought for a moment. Working out, exploring new foods, brewing spirits, petting my cat, and staring at the ceiling. Chloe's eyes grew brighter and brighter. Really? I love food and brewing too. My mom always says I'm a little lush. She stuck her tongue out playfully. It was adorable. I realized that time flew when I was with her. It was just easy. She was like a little sun, radiating a warmth that seemed to melt away all the bitter frost from my past life. We talked about classic French cuisine, about different distilling techniques, about which bakery had the best desserts. Before we knew it, the afternoon was gone. As we were leaving, Chloe looked at me, a little reluctant to say goodbye. So, can we hang out again sometime? Biscuit seems to really like Machi. I looked into her hopeful eyes, and something stirred in me. Of course, I smiled. And just so we're clear, I want to ask you out. It has nothing to do with Machi and Biscuit. Chloe's face instantly turned a deep shade of red, like a ripe apple. She looked down at her feet and mumbled a quiet, okay. So cute. Suddenly, I felt like this kind of life was a lot more interesting than just coasting alone. My dates with Chloe became more and more frequent. Sometimes we'd hunt down hidden culinary gems in back alley restaurants. Sometimes we'd visit a distillery upstate for a tasting. And sometimes we'd just walk Machi and Biscuit in the park. To anyone watching, we already looked like a couple. One day, we were having dinner at a new French restaurant when an unwelcome guest interrupted us. Well, if it isn't the great Aiden Hayes. What's the matter? Got dumped by Ms. Lancaster, and had to find yourself some innocent little flower. A greasy-looking man with slicked-back hair walked over, his tone mocking, his eyes shamelessly roaming over Chloe. I frowned. I recognized him. Brad Jennings, the son of some nouveau riche developer. He used to follow me around at parties, calling me Aiden, my man. Now that he thought I was down on my luck, he was here to kick me. Chloe's expression soured. She didn't like the way he was looking at her. I wiped my mouth with my napkin, not even bothering to look up. Get out. My voice wasn't loud, but the restaurant fell silent. Brad's face flushed red, then pale. He probably never imagined that the fallen me would still have the nerve to be so arrogant. Aiden, don't you fucking push it. He snarled, pointing a finger at my nose. You think you're still hot shit? Without the Lancasters, you're nothing. He was getting worked up, spittle flying from his mouth. Look at you now, just a useless bum who does nothing but eat and drink. Ms. Lancaster was smart to get rid of you. Chloe, her face red with anger, was about to stand up and argue, but I placed a hand on hers, signaling for her to stay calm. Then, I looked up at Brad, my expression placid. Are you done? Yeah, I'm done. What about it? Brad puffed out his chest. Then get out, I said flatly. You're ruining my dinner. You. Brad was shaking with rage. He slammed his hand on the table and pointed at Chloe. You've got balls, kid. Today, I'm going to teach you who you can't afford to piss off. This girl, I want her. As he spoke, he actually reached out to grab Chloe. Chloe flinched back in fear. My eyes turned to ice. He brought this on himself. I didn't move. I just picked up my phone and dialed a number. It was answered instantly. Boss. It was Leo's voice. 3 minutes, I said, keeping it simple. I want a guy named Brad Jennings, and his father's joke of a company, to disappear from New York. Done. Leo didn't ask a single question. I hung up and looked at Brad, whose hand was now inches from Chloe. A small smirk played on my lips. I'm going to count to 3. 1. Brad was still sneering. Count to what? I'm gonna. 2. Brad's phone began to ring, loud and frantic. He answered it, annoyed. It was his dad. In the next second, all the color drained from his face. What? Dad, were you saying? The company's bankrupt? How is that possible? The bank loans. What? They were all recalled? All of our contracts. They're all terminated? The hand holding his phone was shaking. His entire body went limp as if his bones had been removed, and he collapsed to the floor. I stood up, walked over to him, and looked down. 3, I said softly. Brad's phone clattered to the floor. He looked up at me, his eyes filled with a primal terror, as if he were looking at the devil himself. It was you. You did this. He stammered, his lips trembling. I ignored him and turned to take Chloe's hand. Let's go. We'll find somewhere else to eat. Chloe was still in shock, staring at me as I led her out of the restaurant. As we passed the maitre d', I casually handed him a black card. Everything for every guest here tonight is on me. Consider it an apology for the disturbance. It wasn't until we were in the car that Chloe snapped out of it. She looked at me, her eyes sparkling with adoration. Aiden, you were so cool back there. I just smiled and ruffled her hair. Hero saving the damsel? No, I just hate it when flies buzz around while I'm trying to eat. The news of Brad Jennings and his family's company going bankrupt spread like wildfire through New York's elite circles. Everyone knew that he had offended someone at a French restaurant, and within 3 minutes, his family was ruined. But no one knew who that someone was. The speculation was rampant, with most assuming it was the head of some reclusive, powerful family. Meanwhile, I, the cause of it all, was at home with Chloe, figuring out the perfect recipe for a seafood chipino. To me, the incident was a trivial interruption, not even significant enough to distract me from my culinary research. But for Victoria Lancaster, it created a massive storm. She sat in her office, listening to her assistant's report, her brow furrowed. You're saying the last person Brad Jennings saw before his company went under was Aiden? Yes, Ms. Lancaster, the assistant replied cautiously. Witnesses say Jennings was harassing Aiden and his female companion at the restaurant. Then Aiden made a phone call, and 3 minutes later, Jennings Industries was finished. Victoria tapped her fingers on the desk, lost in thought. One phone call, 3 minutes. A company worth billions gone. Could the Aiden she knew, the one who only cared about partying and wasting money, really do that? She didn't believe it. There had to be another explanation. Maybe Jennings had offended someone far more powerful, and Aiden just happened to be there, a convenient scapegoat. Yes, that had to be it. She had her team look into Aiden's activities over the past few weeks. His days were spent at restaurants, the gym, or at home, learning to distill spirits. His social media was a stream of gourmet food, rare liquors, and a ragdoll cat named Machi. It was the daily life of a completely idle, unambitious slacker. This only confirmed Victoria's assessment. Aiden was still Aiden, a lost cause. As for his sudden change in personality and his willingness to end the engagement, he had probably just given up completely, hitting rock bottom. Thinking this, Victoria felt no sense of satisfaction. Instead, a strange annoyance began to bubble up inside her. She waved her hand, dismissing the assistant. Alone in her office, she stared out at the endless river of traffic below. On a strange impulse, she opened Aiden's social media profile. His latest post was from half an hour ago. It was a photo of a pair of well-defined hands prepping shrimp and scallops. The caption read, "Getting my famous Chupino ready for my favorite little glutton. Hope she likes it." In the comments, an account named Chloe's Corner had replied instantly, "I love it already. Can't wait. Red heart, red heart." Victoria stared at the name, Chloe's Corner, and the two glaring heart emojis. A heavy feeling settled in her chest, making it hard to breathe. She didn't know that Chloe was Chloe Evans. She certainly didn't know that the Evans family's corporate empire was more than 10 times the size of her own. All she knew was that the man who once had eyes only for her was now cooking for another woman. And that feeling was not good. Not good at all. Then something happened that shocked the entire city. It started with one of my social media posts. That afternoon, the sun was warm. I'd had a bit of the peach brandy I'd been working on and, feeling a pleasant buzz, fell asleep on a lounge chair. That's how Chloe found me when she came over. Thinking it was cute, she snapped a photo and posted it to my account. In the picture, I was sleeping peacefully in the sun. Beside me, my cat Machi and her dog Biscuit were snuggled together, also fast asleep. Chloe wrote the caption in my voice, "Good day for a nap. Hashtag Aiden didn't get out of bed today." It was supposed to be just a normal, everyday post. But then Leo Vance saw it. For Leo, it was as if the heavens had opened up. This wasn't a post. It was another divine oracle from the boss. The boss said it's a good day for a nap. What does that mean? Leo roared at his subordinates in an emergency meeting. It means the boss is satisfied with our current progress. He's telling us to relax and be bold in our next moves. And this hashtag Aiden didn't get out of bed today. You think that's a joke? No. The boss is telling us that even when he's lying down, he's still in command, able to win battles from 1,000 miles away. That's confidence. That's the posture of an invincible leader. He's telling us not to get complacent with our recent victory. We must maintain a calm and flat mindset, just like him, but when we strike, it must be fatal. The team of overachievers was instantly electrified. We get it. The boss wants us to expand on our victory. Right. The integration of Horizon Corp's assets isn't complete. We have to accelerate. I propose we immediately launch the expansion plan into the Southeast Asian market. The boss is implying the domestic market is no longer big enough for his ambitions. And so, while I was taking an afternoon nap, the various subsidiaries of Ether Holdings launched an all-out offensive, like a pack of rabid wolves. Acquisitions, mergers, hostile takeovers. The entire capital market was thrown into chaos. When I woke up and checked my phone, I found I was the #1 trending topic on X. Under the hashtag Aiden didn't get out of bed today were countless comments for financial analysts and stunned netizens. Holy SD, this guy's a legend. Aiden posted about taking a nap, and Ether Holdings stock immediately hit the trading limit up. Is this the ultimate CEO power move? Takes a nap and adds a few dozen billion to his company's market cap. What is this Zen stock market strategy? I want to learn. If I sleep all day, will my stocks go up too? To top it all off, the official Ether Holdings corporate account left a reverent comment under the post. "You've worked hard, boss. Please rest well. We'll handle the rest." The internet exploded. I stared at my phone, completely bewildered. I just took a nap. After the trending incident, I became famous in New York. Everyone knew about a mysterious tycoon named Aiden Hayes who liked to chill and take naps, and a single nap from him could shake the entire stock market. The Zen god of Wall Street, the sleeping Midas. All sorts of ridiculous nicknames started popping up. Countless people tried to uncover my true identity, but Leo and his team masterfully kept me shielded from the public eye. My life, aside from the bizarre new attention, didn't change much. It was still just me and Chloe, eating, drinking, trying new recipes, and enjoying life. Victoria, however, was about to lose her mind. She used every connection she had to investigate, and the results she got back were more shocking each time. Ether Holdings, the corporate behemoth that had appeared out of nowhere and acted with ruthless efficiency, had a single majority shareholder, Aiden Hayes. The same Aiden she had dumped, looked down on, and written off as a complete waste. How was this possible? She couldn't accept it. Then, Lancaster Corp faced a massive crisis. A giant overseas investment firm suddenly launched a hostile takeover. They came in hard and fast with immense capital. Lancaster Corp's defenses crumbled, and its stock price plummeted. The company was on the brink of collapse. Victoria was at her wits' end, running on fumes after several sleepless nights, dark circles under her eyes. She thought about the novel she'd once skimmed, where the plot was eerily similar to her current situation. In the book, this was the moment the hero appeared out of nowhere, saving her and her company like a knight in shining armor, and winning her heart in the process. But where was her hero? Victoria waited and waited, but the only news she got was that her company was closer to bankruptcy. In her desperation, she thought of me, the man she once despised more than anyone. She hesitated for a long time before finally dialing my number. The phone rang for what felt like an eternity before I picked up. Hello. My voice was lazy, like I'd just woken up. Aiden, it's me. Victoria's voice was hoarse and weary. Oh, Ms. Lancaster. What's up? Victoria gritted her teeth, swallowing all her pride and dignity. I need your help, she said, the words catching in her throat. Lancaster Corp. It's not going to make it. I was silent for a moment. Honestly, I didn't care what happened to her company. But then, I glanced over at Chloe, who was quietly cutting up a plate of fruit for me. She seemed to sense something was wrong and looked at me with concern. I suddenly realized how annoying these constant interruptions to my time with Chloe were. Fine, I said flatly. Consider it repayment for the kindness your grandfather showed my family years ago. I hung up before she could respond. Then I dialed Leo. Boss, that overseas firm. They're annoying. I kept it brief. Make them disappear. Yes, sir. Leo's voice trembled with excitement. Are you finally going to personally direct the battle, to show the world your true power? I sighed. I just want to eat my fruit in peace. Leo's efficiency was, as always, off the charts. Or rather, my team of overachieving workaholics, upon receiving a supreme directive from the boss, unleashed 200% of their combat power. They were convinced this was a test from me, a chance to prove their worth in front of their future boss's wife. And so, a battle that would be recorded in financial textbooks as a legendary corporate slaughter was initiated for the most casual of reasons. The arrogant overseas giant was as fragile as a piece of paper against the war machine that was Ether Holdings. Their capital chain was surgically severed. Their core tech patents were exposed as having massive security flaws. Scandals involving their top executives flooded the news. In just one night, they were utterly defeated, forced into a humiliating retreat from the American market, leaving a mountain of debt behind. The next morning, Victoria stared at her computer screen, at the sea of green showing her company's soaring stock price and the news of her rival's bankruptcy. She was in a daze. She had been up all night preparing a full-scale defense, readying herself for a brutal, drawn-out war. And then she woke up, and the enemy was just gone. She sat motionless in her office. The sun streamed in, but she felt no warmth. She knew Aiden had done it. Only he had that kind of power. So, he wasn't useless. He was a slumbering dragon. It wasn't that he couldn't, it was that he couldn't be bothered. And she, with her own two hands, had pushed that dragon away. She remembered the day she ended their engagement, the look of pure relief on his face after he signed the papers. She remembered him saying, I lost interest in you a long time ago, his voice completely devoid of emotion. She remembered his social media posts, the tenderness with which he cooked for another woman. Her heart clenched violently, the pain so sharp it took her breath away. A colossal wave of regret crashed over her, drowning her completely. She had lost, utterly and completely. After the crisis was averted, the first thing Victoria did was come find me. She waited downstairs from my apartment for an entire afternoon. When I drove up, I saw her standing alone in the autumn wind, a solitary and desolate figure. I parked the car, and Chloe and I got out. Chloe was clutching an antique cookbook I had just won for her at an auction, her face flushed with excitement. Aiden, can we make the braised short rib recipe tonight? It looks so delicious. Of course. Whatever you want, I said, smiling as I pinched her cheek. We walked right past Victoria without a second glance, as if she wasn't even there. Aiden. Victoria finally broke the silence, her voice strained. I stopped and turned, my expression distant. Ms. Lancaster, can I help you? Victoria looked at me, then at Chloe standing beside me, her eyes a mix of complicated emotions. Can we talk? No, I replied bluntly. My girlfriend is waiting for me to go home and cook for her. The word girlfriend was like a dagger, plunging deep into Victoria's heart. Chloe blushed slightly, but didn't object. Instead, she leaned closer to me, her hand secretly grabbing the hem of my jacket. The small gesture filled me with joy. Victoria's face went pale. Who is she? My future wife, Chloe. I pulled Chloe in front of me, wrapping an arm around her shoulder, my tone laced with a hint of pride and doting affection. Isn't she the cutest? Chloe shyly buried her head in my chest like an ostrich. A few young women walking by after work saw the scene and squealed softly, covering their mouths. "Ah, they're so sweet. He's so handsome and spoils her so much. And she's adorable." Their words floated into Victoria's ears, each one a sharp, stinging barb of irony. She looked at our effortless intimacy, at the happy, shy blush on Chloe's face, and then thought of her own haggard and defeated state over the past few days. A bitter taste rose in her throat, and her eyes instantly turned red. "Aiden," she said, her voice trembling on the verge of tears. "Is there really no going back for us?" I looked at her, and for the first time, I answered her question seriously. "Victoria, you have to move forward. Just because you throw something away doesn't mean someone else won't pick it up and treasure it. I used to think you were my whole world, but I realized I was wrong. The world is a big place. There's so much good food, so many amazing things to see. And you were just an insignificant detour on my journey." With that, I stopped looking at her. I wrapped my arm around Chloe and walked into the apartment building. The golden light of the setting sun stretched our two shadows out long behind us. Victoria left. I don't know how, and I don't care. My world now had only one priority: cheering up the little angel in my arms who was pretending not to be jealous. The moment we were inside, Chloe wriggled out of my embrace, puffed out her cheeks, and sat on the sofa without a word. "What's wrong?" I asked, playing dumb as I sat down beside her. "Oomph." She turned her head, giving me the silent treatment. "Are you jealous?" I leaned in, whispering close to her ear. The tip of her ear instantly turned bright red. "No, I'm not. I feel sorry for Ms. Lancaster. Sorry for her." I chuckled. She didn't seem very sorry when she was throwing me away like a piece of trash. Chloe turned to face me, her big eyes filled with seriousness. "So, do you still like her?" I looked at her anxious face and found it both amusing and endearing. I reached out, gently holding her chin and turning her face to mine. "Chloe, listen to me. My name is Aiden Hayes, and right now, my heart and my eyes have room for only one person. You, everyone, and everything from the past. To me, they're like a bad meal I had yesterday. Once it's gone, I don't give it a second thought." My gaze was more sincere than it had ever been. Chloe looked at me, at the focus and deep affection in my eyes, and her own eyes began to well up. Suddenly, she threw herself into my arms, hugging me tightly. "Me too," she mumbled into my chest, her voice thick with emotion. "Me too. My heart and my eyes are full of you." Holding her warm, soft body, I felt my own heart become whole. Okay, no more crying." I patted her back, soothing her gently. "If you keep crying, my little food critic won't be pretty anymore. What about those short ribs you wanted? Are we still having them?" "Yes." She lifted her head from my chest, tears still on her cheeks, but a huge smile was already spreading across her face. "I want you to make them for me. The best short ribs in the world." "Okay." I leaned down and kissed the tears from the corner of her eyes. In the kitchen, I tied on an apron and started prepping the ingredients. Chloe followed me around like a little shadow, handing me plates one moment, then wrapping her arms around my waist from behind the next, pressing her cheek against my back like a cat. "Aiden, your abs. Can I touch them?" I couldn't help but laugh. "After dinner, you can touch them as much as you want." "Yay, you promised. No take-backs." The kitchen filled with the aroma of cooking food and the sound of sweet laughter. I suddenly realized that this, right here, was life. This was the simple, warm, everyday happiness I had wanted all along. After we made our relationship public, Chloe completely let herself go. Her most high-profile moment was during one of her own live streams. Chloe was a well-known campus beauty from a top university and a food streamer with 10 million followers. Her content usually involved reviewing restaurants or baking desserts. That day, she was making tiramisu live. The chat was scrolling by at lightning speed. "My wife is so beautiful today. Everything Chloe makes looks so delicious. I want to marry her." Just then, my hand appeared in the frame, holding a plate of freshly cut fruit. The live chat froze for 3 solid seconds. Then it exploded. "Whoa, whose hand is that? It's gorgeous. It's a guy. There's a guy. Chloe has a man in her house. My youth is officially over." Chloe saw the comments and burst out laughing. She picked up a piece of cantaloupe and fed it to me, and I naturally leaned in and ate it. Then, she turned to the camera grinning like a cat that had gotten into the cream. Everyone, I'd like to introduce you to someone. She turned the camera toward me. I had just finished a workout and was shirtless, my 8-pack abs and V-line on full display. The chat exploded again, a waterfall of holy ST and drooling emojis. "This is my boyfriend, Aiden," Chloe announced proudly. Then, in front of millions of viewers, she reached out her mischievous hand and poked me right in the abs. "He's handsome, right? Great body, right? He's mine." At that moment, the live stream froze, lagging into a slideshow. The sound of countless male fans' hearts breaking and countless female fans' envious screams merged into a joyous sea of chaos. The hashtags hashtag Chloe makes it official and hashtag Aiden Hazabs instantly shot to the top of the trending list. I looked at her with a helpless smile. "You're really something else." But she just stood on her tiptoes and gave me a quick kiss on the cheek. "I don't care. I just want the whole world to know that you belong to me." Our high-profile announcement naturally reached Victoria's ears. She clicked on the recording of the live stream, watching as Chloe happily introduced me to the world, watching as I let her mess around with doting eyes, watching the screen fill with comments like "perfect match," "so jealous," and "OTP." Her hand, gripping her phone, was so tight her knuckles turned white. Her heart felt like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand, the pain making it hard to breathe. She once had the chance to have all of this. If only she hadn't been so arrogant, so dismissive of him back then. If only she had tried to understand the young man who followed her around, so carefully trying to please her. Would everything have been different? But there were no if-onlys. She opened a drawer. Inside was a detailed plan she had drafted for how to win me back. It covered everything from my preferences and my daily schedule to how to engineer accidental meetings. It was planned with the same cool, rational, and determined precision as any of her business proposals. But now it all seemed like a joke. Feelings were never a business negotiation that could be calculated. And what she had lost wasn't a business deal, but a person's sincere heart. Victoria took out the plan and, page by page, slowly tore into pieces. The shreds of paper drifted from her fingers like snowflakes, falling onto the cold floor, burying the last of her fantasies along with them. She walked to the floor-to-ceiling window and looked out at the city lights. In the distance, she could see the light on in my apartment, warm and bright. She could almost picture the scene inside. Me and Chloe, snuggled together, sharing a piece of tiramisu. That was their world. A world she could never enter again. 2 silent tears finally escaped her proud eyes and traced paths down her cheeks. She finally understood. True loss wasn't screaming and crying. It was watching the happiness that was once within your grasp bloom in someone else's hands, brighter than you could have ever imagined, while you could do nothing but stand still and watch, completely powerless. My quiet, lazy life continued. Except now it was for 2. Chloe moved into my apartment, bringing her Samoyed biscuit with her. Now, I wasn't woken up by an alarm clock, but by Biscuit's wet nose and Machi's fluffy tail. Chloe would make breakfast, then cling to me like a koala, refusing to get ready for the day until I gave her a kiss. During the day, we would either curl up on the sofa, watching old movies, or experiment with new recipes in the kitchen. My distillery room was now filled with cute, hand-labeled bottles of fruit wine that Chloe had made. Leo and my team of subordinates were still out there, conquering the business world on my behalf. The Ether Holdings empire grew larger every day. They would occasionally send me documents that needed my final decision, which I would usually approve without reading, replying with a simple 2 words, "Looks good." And from those 2 words, they would somehow decipher 1,000 layers of profound meaning and go back to their work with even more revolutionary fervor. They all said the boss had stepped back from the front lines for the sake of his new love, choosing to enjoy a quiet life. Only I knew the truth. I was just lazy. One evening, Chloe and I were curled up on a lounge chair on the balcony, watching the stars. "Aiden, are we being too decadent, living like this?" Chloe snuggled deeper into my arms. "I feel like we're a pair of retired old people." I smiled and kissed her forehead. "Decadent? I think this is what life is supposed to be." I held her tighter, looking up at the galaxy stretching across the sky, my heart completely at peace. In my past life, I fought with everything I had to grasp things that were never meant for me, and I ended up broken and alone. This time, I chose to let go, to do nothing, and unexpectedly, I gained the whole world. Perhaps the best state in life isn't about chasing after something. It's about knowing what you want and enjoying it peacefully. Like right now, a beautiful woman in my arms, beloved pets at my side, a sky full of stars above me, and a profound sense of peace in my heart. This was more than enough. As for Victoria, as for all the old grudges, let them drift away with the wind. My world is very small now. Small enough to hold only Chloe and this simple, warm, everyday life of ours. The end.